Hello and welcome to Carbon Literacy, a guide in 7 minutes and 10 seconds. I am Dr. Matt Sawyer and will be giving you the basic information that you need to understand all things carbon. What is carbon literacy and why should we be interested? Carbon literacy is defined as an awareness of the carbon dioxide costs and impacts of everyday activities and the ability and motivation to reduce emissions on an individual, community and organisational basis. The story of carbon literacy begins with the understanding of the main culprits, the greenhouse gases. The Kyoto Protocol has been effective since 2005 and regulates the global emissions of the gases which contribute to global heating. The six are carbon dioxide, methane and nitrous oxide, and three gases collectively known as fluorinated gases and sometimes shortened to F gases. Not all gases are equal when it comes to contributing to heating the planet, and this is where carbon dioxide equivalence comes in. A key aspect of a greenhouse gas is its global warming potential. This reflects how long it stays in the atmosphere and its ability to absorb energy. A molecule of methane doesn't last as long in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, but because it absorbs much more energy, the global warming potential of methane is much higher. Even very small amounts of F gases will cause damage for thousands of years to come. What are the sources of emissions in the UK? In 2019, transport was responsible for about a third, energy use about a quarter, and housing and business around 18% each. The public sector and other areas generated about 5% of the overall emissions. Electricity generation have reduced their carbon emissions substantially over the last decade. A brief overview of the greenhouse effect helps us understand how carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases heat the planet. The Earth receives solar radiation from the sun passing through the atmosphere. Some of this energy is reflected back into space before it arrives, and that which does arrive is converted into infrared energy which we feel as heat. Some of this heat energy is emitted from the Earth's surface back into space, and it is these energy waves which can bounce off the greenhouse gas molecules and back towards the surface of the Earth. In effect, the atmosphere acts as a blanket around the Earth, and by adding more greenhouse gases, the blanket is getting thicker and retaining more heat. Mankind is producing carbon dioxide due to the burning of fossil fuels, and the amount in our atmosphere is rising. Research centres around the world measure this, and levels have risen from 280 parts per million 300 years ago to over 400 parts per million now. We see a sawtooth effect when the data from several years is displayed, due to the natural cycle of plant and vegetation growth and death between seasons. Global heating is the continued exaggerated rise in average temperature of the Earth resulting from man-made activities. Climate change is the significant and lasting changes to the weather seen as a result of rising carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. And the climate crisis describes the serious problems resulting from climate change, leading to catastrophic breakdown of the ecosystem services across planet Earth. There will be multiple impacts from the climate crisis and ecological breakdown. Rising temperatures cause rising sea levels and weather extremes. The direct effect of water events includes too little water and drought, or too much water and flooding. We can think about heat and its contribution to wildfires and the impact on human health, or weather events which increase the frequency and ferocity of storms and rainfall. Global temperature rises are not uniform across the planet. Different countries will face different risks, and the impacts are not felt evenly. Some countries and populations will be more at risk from increasing diseases, for other problems will stem from the lack of food or water security, and others from the direct effects of heat or severe and extreme weather. What has been happening in the United Kingdom? The Met Office has looked back over their temperature records, and we can see that the UK is, on average, getting hotter. It is not only global temperatures which are increasing. The Met Office's State of the UK Climate Report shows that the 10 hottest years in the UK since 1884 have all happened in the last 17 years. What impacts could the UK feel? A report by DEFRA on future flooding shows that there are over 2 million properties at risk, with average annual damages of nearly £1.5 billion, in addition to the £800 million spent on flooding and coastal defences. If we continue under a high carbon emission scenario, this rises to £27 billion per year by 2070. As we have seen on a global scale, there will be a variety of impacts in different places. The UK is no different, as various parts of the country will experience different complications from the climate crisis. Some will have changes to water levels leading to droughts or flooding. This will affect what food can be grown and what disruptions to the water supply for households. Sea levels will rise in coastal regions, and changes to weather patterns will see more frequent storms, likely wetter winters and drier summers. There are many actions that we can take, but we need to start by understanding our footprint and our contributions to the climate crisis. There are many different carbon footprint calculators available, and several are listed here. Do we understand where our carbon hotspots are? And once we do, we can start to plan the actions to reduce our impact. Everyone's footprint results are unique to them. These are the results from one footprint calculator for an average person living in the UK. It shows that food and drink is responsible for about a quarter of emissions, energy use in the home about 16%, personal transport 14%, and the services that we use another 12%. There are high impact individual actions we can all take. By changing the way we use energy in our home by using less and wasting less, or changing the way that we move to drive less and walk or cycle more, or change our diets to eat more seasonally, more locally and less wastefully. We can all make big reductions to our carbon emissions footprint. Can we reduce our footprint as a group or at work? How can we achieve carbon neutrality, and what areas do we need to focus on first? Each workplace and group are unique, so we need to find out our hotspots and plan our group actions accordingly. High impact actions can be pledged and implemented to reduce the emissions footprint of the group as a whole. One example is the impact of holding meetings. Online meetings can have an almost negligible footprint. Shared travel such as bus or train generates a small footprint, whereas single occupancy vehicles generate a much larger one. But flying creates the greatest footprint, measured in hundreds of kilos of carbon dioxide. Becoming carbon literate can start to help staff and businesses recognise the contribution from different parts and aspects of their business and to put positive actions in place to reduce this. There are many actions that can be taken. My top 3 for individuals, businesses and organisations are: first, become carbon literate by taking a course; second, declare a climate emergency, that we tell the truth, acknowledge that this is an emergency, act now and work together to create new solutions; and finally, we start to take action and we do it now. To find out more, visit Speak Carbon for all carbon literacy training.